Oh, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God it's the original, not that other version. I'm gonna be tense whenever I build up this game now, aren't I? What is up, Game Breakers, and welcome to a brand new era of Game Breaker Mills with Game Breaker reviews, and this is the first GBR video. And of course, what better way to start than with the original 1991 Sonic the Hedgehog. I teased this in the final video of Game Breaker Mills, and not only that, but he's got a brand new collection coming out, he's got a brand new film sequel coming out to the 2020 movie, and he's of course got the brand new game at the end of this year. But let's stop stalling and let's start talking about Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega's very own moneymaker. The blue hedgehog with an attitude thwarting the evil Dr. Robotnik's plan from taking over the world and stopping him from using little animals to power his robots. But how did this come to be? Well, Sonic wasn't always the mascot. That job once belonged to Alex Kidd. However, he wasn't exactly raking in the big bucks. So Sega decided to design a brand new mascot to rival Nintendo's very own Mario. This task was given to Naoto Oshima, sorry if I butchered that name. Many designs were pitched, including an armadillo, a Theodore Roosevelt lookalike in pajamas, a rabbit, and a hedgehog. After taking these designs to New York and asking random passers-by what design they liked best, they went with the hedgehog, who was, at the time, codenamed Mr. Hedgehog. Sega were on board and took to designing him. He had an attitude to represent the US at the time, was coloured blue to match the company's logo, and his shoes were red, which were inspired by Michael Jackson and Santa Claus? Remember kids, giving people presents makes you cool. I sound like a right boomer saying that. And his name was Sonic the Hedgehog. But one thing was missing. He needed something unique. Something that would set him apart from Nintendo's very own Super Mario. And that was where his name came in. Sonic. His speed. Speed was what would set him apart. And this is where the legendary Yuji Naka comes in. He was working on a concept where sprites could move through curves at a very smooth frame rate. This included a character rolling through winding tubes at a very high speed, and Sega teamed him up with Oshima and designer Hirokazu Yasuhara. During development, the Roosevelt character became the game's antagonist, Dr. Robotnik, an evil scientist who would use the world's animals as a power source for all of his machines, and Sonic would go on a quest to thwart his plans of world domination and bring peace back to the land of South Island. And the game was then ready and released on June 23rd, 1991, which prompted Sega to walk up to Alex Kidd and scream, "You're fired!" And the thing is, Sega and Sonic Team must have really loved this game from here on out, because this has been ported to just about anything. It's actually been ported more times than Skyrim. And that has a version on the Alexa of all things. Not only that, but as I've stated, the Sonic Origins collection's coming out for the Switch, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, which means that there's going to be even more versions coming. I mean, this is definitely on countless consoles, but I'm going to be looking at the Sega, Genesis and Mega Drive collection. This is a collection of a bunch of games, including the original Sonic the Hedgehog. But let's not stall any longer. Let's start playing. So the story of the game involves our very own Blue Blur to traverse through 6 zones, each containing 3 acts apiece, and put a stop to Dr. Robotnik's evil plan. Many of the world's inhabitants have been captured and are being used as power sources for Robotnik's mechs, which he names Bad Mechs, many of which look like animals themselves, such as crab meat, motobugs and jaws, just to name a few. Our very first zone of the game is Green Hill, and this looks really pretty. So all the trees, the flowers, the totem poles, the water in the background with all the waterfalls coming from the mountains, and some of the forests you can also see. These colours work quite well, as Sonic isn't lost in the background, he just pops out just fine, so he stands out from absolutely everything you see. One thing you can also point out is the music, one thing that Sonic has become very, very famous for. And for Green Hill, it is one of the most iconic tracks in the series. It sounds quite relaxing in a sense, which basically works to the idea of Green Hill. It does look like a relaxing area, until you realise there's a lot of robots everywhere. As soon as you start moving, all of the gameplay is shown to you very quickly. Enemies show up which can be destroyed easily, item boxes which have goodies in them, springs to help you reach greater heights, spikes that hurt when jumped on, and of course the rings. Rings are basically Sonic's version of coins which can be seen in Super Mario Bros., but with proper use. In Mario, the coins are only used to boost your high score, something that many gamers haven't really cared about since the Atari era. But rings are a lifeline. Sure, to boost your high score and collecting 100 will score you an extra life, but if you get hit by an enemy, the rings will scatter and you survive that hit. And since the rings scatter, you can make an attempt to pick up some of them. And as long as you're holding at least one ring, you will not lose a life. You guys ready for some jank? The spikes unfortunately have a glitch. Now if you get hit by the spikes and then you fall off the spikes, you can collect the rings. The thing is, whenever you get hit, you have immunity frames. The spikes in Sonic 1 for whatever reason ignore these frames. Saying that, if you get hit by a spike and then you bounce back and then once again land at the spikes, your immunity frames don't matter. You will lose a life. This of course is addressed in later games, just later entries, not the later ports. Sonic also has a few attacks. After all, he has to defend himself from the badniks. This comes in the form of two moves, jumping and rolling. Jumping is quite simple. Basically you see an enemy, you jump and boom, dead. But there are some enemies you cannot jump on. This is where rolling comes in. Sonic needs to have momentum built up, so you just run for a little bit and then you push down and you go straight into a roll. Now Sonic wouldn't be Sonic without his gimmick, his speed. No, not the drug. Oh. His gimmick was how you can rush through the stage with how fast Sonic can run, and Green Hill is a fantastic introductory stage to show this. And with the goal being get to the end of the stage, it makes it much better just to race through. Here's a tip. If you find a slope, roll down it. Sonic will build a hell of a lot of speed, so much more than if you were just running down the slope. It's quite exhilarating and really satisfying to pull off. However, Act 3 is different. There is no goalpost at the end. Instead, Dr. Robotnik is waiting for you in one of his contraptions. In terms of this level, it's the ball and chain, which became quite an iconic boss. All you need to do is to dodge his attacks using the two platforms, hit him 8 times, then, after he's destroyed, hit the animal capsule at the very end of the zone, and there you go, zone completion. Fantastic first zone. Let's see the rest of the game. I hope it's as good as the first. Where's the speed? Yes! Marble Zone is next, and all compliments I made can be thrown out the window because this level is slow. A complete 180 from Green Hill Zone. In fact, it's so slow that the moment where the lava's chasing you, that too is slow. Not much to be said here, but I would like to point out that the caterpillars, these enemies are one of the few where jumping is not advised. Where, yes, you can kill them by jumping, but it is very precise. And if you are off, well, they will split apart, and you risk being hurt once again. Instead, roll into them, from the face of course. No damage will be taken, and they will be completely destroyed. The boss here, Robotnik, has a fire spitter. You just need to jump to the other side when he attacks, and then hit him while he's in range. I love Springyard. The music is a big part to do it, of course. It's not as fast as Green Hill Zone, but it's also not as slow as Marble Zone. It's also very challenging. Many dangers are around, whether it would be these armadillo bots named Rollers, these hermit crab things with spikes on the top of the shell named Spikes. Right, so what should we call this enemy? We've already got crab meat, so that's out of the question. I mean, it may be a hermit crab, but it's also quite similar to Motorbug, so I'm not going to go anywhere near there. I mean, it's got spikes. Spikes. I've got it! Spike bulbs orbiting around the platform. It's challenging. I can't say the same about the boss, though. This is quite disappointing. Sure, it can be dangerous when Robotnik drops down with the spike and destroys the platforms, but that's about it. It's also quite easy to destroy his mech, as he descends, you can actually get a couple of hits in. And it's just not a creative boss, nor challenging. Disappointment to a fantastic stage, if I say so myself. This is your run-of-the-mill water level, which would be fine, but Sonic can't swim. He can't even breathe underwater. Score 1 to Mario. You then must use these air bubbles that are supplied around the level, and if you don't, you will hear... and Sonic will drown as soon as the countdown reaches 0. His speed is also immensely cut. Clearly the worst level in the game. It's also difficult with these spears coming out of the walls and these heads that spit fire. There's also rising platforms that will also try to murder you if you don't get out of the way in time. Hell, it's so bad that Robotnik doesn't even try to hurt you. He just looks at the level and is like... run away! And fun fact, this was supposed to be the second level. Good thing they didn't, because as much of a slog that Marble Zone is, at least you aren't at risk of drowning. A much better stage, and the speed is back! It's a pretty challenging level too, with bombs that blow up into 4 projectiles and bottomless pits aplenty. But this level is fun. Not sure why the fans are here though. I think having wind machines on a construction site is considered very dangerous. Robotnik also likes this level, as he has returned with a new weapon. There are 3 seesaws, and Robotnik is firing these spiked bombs onto them. Now this boss is quite interesting, as there are 2 ways to attack him. Either you bounce on the opposite side of the seesaw and fire the bombs right back at him, or use the weight of the bombs to launch Sonic into the air and attack Robotnik head on. Pretty fun boss. The final zone, and the most challenging as well as dangerous. Robotnik does not hold back. He brings out everything in an attempt to kill you where you stand. In addition to previous badniks, as well as new ones, we also have buzzsaws, broken pipes spewing fire, electrical currents, these spinning platforms that will throw you to your death if you don't jump out on time, and many blocks that will crush you. Still easier than Eggman Land, all things considered. I would say this is a perfect final stage, but you see at the end of Act 2, Robotnik pushes a button, sending you to the lower levels, which is... that's just Labyrinth Zone Act 4! This has got to be a form of abuse! So, I have 2 reasons why Act 3 is another Labyrinth Zone. Either the devs were running out of time and couldn't finish off Scrap Brain as originally intended. Instead, they changed the colour of Labyrinth Zone assets and used them for Act 3. Or they were running low on cartridge space and recoloured Labyrinth Zone, which I think uses up less space, and they were able to put the rest in the game with this sidestep. Thing is, I am unsure if either of these are the real reason, and if they are untrue, don't tell me. I like to think I'm right in these situations. Can't let my ego take another hit after the Battle Royale discussion video. The finale, the final boss. This can be nerve-wracking. So here's the gist of it. There are 4 crushers, 2 on the floor and 2 in the ceiling. Robotnik will activate 2 at a time, and he will be in one of them. This is your opportunity to attack. After this, he will activate a projectile attack where 4 energy orbs will fall and somewhat lock onto your location. And this attack pattern will loop. Why is it nerve-wracking? You have no rings. So, if you get hit by that projectile attack, it's death. But here's a tip. The projectiles don't always fire at the exact same part of the spawn zone. There will be a gap between 2 of them that is big enough that you can stand under it and not get hurt. I like this boss. Not a fan of the previous. They all look way too similar to each other and weren't even that challenging. This one is also quite easy but can catch you off guard, and it also looks different from the others, so that there is a plus. As you defeat him, Robotnik bails out and runs to his Egg-O-Matic. You can attack him one more time and put an end to him. Or leave him be. I feel like there should be a Robotnik will remember this text at the top. And this concludes Sonic's journey. But people on their first playthrough may have forgotten these. These are just collectibles to get the best ending. But how do you get these? Well, the rings aren't just for an extra life, lifesaver and points. These also unlock the special stages. If you can get to the end of either an Act 1 or Act 2 stage with at least 50 rings, a giant ring will appear next to the post. You have a short amount of time to jump into this, and if you can, this will teleport you to... I have to tell my supermarket delivery to stop lacing all of my shopping with LSD. Yes, the rotating maze. This choppy, spinning, colourful stage is how you earn one of the 6 emeralds. All you need to do is get to the end and break them out. I would say that each stage gets harder, but it's a little bit scattered. Some are easier than others, like Special Stage 5. This is a proper maze, while the 6th is break the emerald out of the centre of this big room. After you collect all 6, just finish the game. As soon as you get to the final cutscene, Sonic stops. The emeralds fly up, spin, and create flowers and trees that are also bigger. You also get an angry looking Robotnik too. It's a bit underwhelming, but I don't make the game, Sega does. The story is very simplistic, the typical stop evil guy from taking over the world type of story. Thing is, not many platforms at the time had a deep, interesting story. That was left to RPGs. It was also the Hedgehog's first adventure. I guess he decided to play it safe to lay out brickwork and see how things go. I feel the game looks really good. Sonic pops out from the background, each area knows what it wants to be, and with music that fits the zone perfectly. All enemies, despite being dangerous, do have a child-friendly, goofy look, and some have become iconic. The downside are the boss designs. With the exception of the final zone, all the bosses are the same Egg-O-Matic with the small add-on, whether that be the Wrecking Ball or a Spike, and so on. Personally, the gameplay isn't too bad. Sure, we have the Spike glitch, and some of the levels don't accommodate to Sonic's speed, but it is solid. Control-wise as a platformer, I think it does quite well. The difficulty also scales really well, getting harder and harder as the game progresses. Special stages can be a little bit annoying. I'm not a fan of uncontrollable movement that you're having to fight against, but again, the game's controls are solid. With all that said, my score for Sonic 1 will be... And there you have it, Sonic the Hedgehog, a mascot that was finally able to go up against Nintendo's Mario. And this game did so well that Sega decided to have it bundled with a brand new Sega Genesis if you're to buy it at the time, instead of Altered Beast. But I wouldn't play this version. Don't get me wrong, it's a classic, but I just wouldn't play this. It's the same with the Mega Collection, that and Plus, Classic Collection on the DS, and just about any other version. If you want a definitive way to play it, play the Christian Whitehead Android version. This version is absolutely fantastic. Silky smooth 60 FPS, making the special stages much easier to play, 3 playable characters, and of course the spike glitch actually has been fixed. One thing I didn't talk about earlier was one thing you can do from the start menu, which is the debug mode and the level select. But for whatever reason I couldn't get it working on the Genesis Classic Collection. So I emulated this footage here. Level select code will send you anywhere, but the debug mode, you can do some wacky stuff with this. Put anything you want on the ground, it's insane. So yeah, just try that stuff out for yourself. You've got to play the game. And I would say just play any version, it's on just about anything. Apart from the Alexa, Sega, make that happen. I want Sonic the Hedgehog Alexa edition. Come on, Skyrim did it, yous can too.